In our continuing series on Korea, we head to a border where the tension is thick. On one side, North Korea's adding guard posts. On the other side, South Korea's ramping up surveillance. Our Annalisa Burgos takes us to the DMZ.
Each year, more than 1 million tourists to South Korea visit the demilitarized zone, or DMZ, a 2.5-mile wide buffer area that stretches 160 miles along a demarcation line that divides North and South Korea. No one can cross the DMZ, but you can visit by joining an official tour that takes you to designated sites. Our group drove about 35 miles north of Seoul to a checkpoint, where Korean soldiers take your passport and return it when you leave. Inside the Dora Observatory, we get a bird's-eye view of both sides of the border. A North Korean flag flies on a blue tower, and less than a mile away, a South Korean flag waves atop a white tower. We can't actually see Kim Jong-un's palace from here, but through binoculars, the soldiers here say that you can see his statue in the main square. On the roof, a 360-degree view of lush forest and wildlife, a resting place for countless war dead, still dotted with landmines.
Paju? Yeah, it's a moonside.
What's moonside?
It's just a countryside.
That one over there, second largest city in North Korea.
DMZ is a place that bears the tragedy of the time in the past.
Korea wasn't always divided. In 1910, it was a Japanese colony. After World War II, superpowers divided it in half at the 38th parallel. The Soviet Union claimed the North, while the U.S. occupied the South. In 1950, the North tried to unify the country under communist rule and invaded the South. UN troops under U.S. command pushed North Korea's army back. Over 3 years, nearly 4 million people died in the Korean War. Ceasefire terms adjusted the border and created the DMZ, a scar that's kept families apart for generations. Aside from maintaining peace, the DMZ is an important tool for South Korea to promote tourism and its North Korea policy of deterrence.
North Korea is provoking us endlessly, using tunnels underground, as well as on land and sea.
During our tour, we were told about ongoing threats and walked inside one of the tunnels South Korea says were dug by the North for invasion. So now we have our hard hat on. Our Sergeant Lee is going to give us a tour of the 3rd infiltration tunnel. Let's go.
Let's go.
We left our bags, phones, and cameras in lockers and made the steep 1-mile descent within 550 feet of North Korea. Despite the danger tied to the DMZ, families have been living in the area for 50 years. About 480 people live in Donggolcheon Unification Village, mostly seniors who come from both sides of the border. A museum tells the town's history.
My parents were all born in this place. However, because of Korean War, we had to leave our hometown. We have been living in this area for generations, so we always wanted to come back this place.
Among the first to return after the war, Won-bae Lee and his mother, who was pregnant with Lee when they fled. Lee says families receive military training and have guns to defend themselves.
In past days, there were many threats and provocations, so every time when those kind of incidents happened, we had to go to the shelter. So it was kind of worrying and very, unstable to live here.
Tae Sang-min was 10 years old when he left his hometown.
I think I'm privileged because I could come back to this city because only few people could come back this town where they born.
Like many Koreans, Min doesn't expect reunification of the peninsula, but hopes the border will reopen.
Even if two Koreas are not reunified, I hope that we can freely visit each other someday.
And for millions of families still separated by war, crossing the line will finally bring peace. Reporting from the DMZ in South Korea, Annalisa Burgos, Hawaii News Now.